Hey guys, you saw the first video where we toured my house, and today we're going to be touring my yard full of jumps, so yeah, come on, check it out. Starting here at the roll-in tower. So this is actually only one of two features in the yard that I haven't changed in the 3 years that I've had all the jumps and stuff. I've built the whole thing out of cedar that we milled from the property here. So cedar's not as strong as fir, but it's more rot resistant. So this is the one feature of the yard that it was appropriate to use cedar. What's cool about this is that this cedar was laying in the back of my property, and we think it was probably laying on the ground for 40 to 60 years. When we did a cross section on the log, yeah, it's like 150-year-old wood that we were able to use for not only this, but all of my decks in the house. So that's pretty cool to, you know, reuse all that. It's kind of just like a big deck on 6-foot stilts. So let's cruise up here, check it out. It's all about just getting the little hop in and then the pump when you're down it. So heading into the next feature, on the on-off, you don't want to like plop onto it or you won't have enough speed to clear the drop off. You really want to racer onto it, and then you got plenty of speed, just kind of like racer cruise styles, and then little pop and speed style. I've had guys come over here that, you know, they hop up onto it, they plop, then they're like, oh shit, and they take a little crank and then they case the drop. So it's really about just getting that pump and like bike control and being smooth onto it. This is the flat drop beside the house, so this is one of the bigger features in the yard. I think it's about 20 down, 18 out, so it's pretty squared off drop, so it's actually a really good trick drop. It's a little tech because you have to racer onto it, be really smooth, and then out of it you have a left-hand 90-degree berm that you really need to nail the entrance and the pump to make it into the whale tail. It's a little dicey, not dicey, but it's like a little challenging to learn to ride at first, but once you get it, it feels so smooth. Like little pop, pump in the landing, pump out of the berm, and you're dialed. I really like this drop because it's made me really confident in doing drop tricks. You know, like I spin this drop every day, I foot plant 3'd this drop. I've crashed on this drop, which sucks, but it's good to ride that type of terrain that's just like big ass jumps daily that kind of, you know, lower your like fear level of doing tricks. So now when, you know, if I want to go to the desert or go somewhere else and do some like huge spin, it's like, oh, I spin 20-foot drops on the daily. So that was kind of the move, or my motive with building something this big, is that, you know, it makes you less scared to all around to do it off other things. It just builds your confidence. So this is where I jumped off the house in the roof drop of that first video I did called Grounded. It's about a 30-foot drop off the 3rd story. Super blind until you're right at the end and a little pop off, and then I had a landing built up here, so it made it a bit steeper. But yeah, it was a really cool one. Really scary, but planning on utilizing that a bit more for some new builds and videos into the spring. So yeah, I'll keep an eye on that. Also done another stunt here off a tree stem. I had a cedar here that died from drought. It's kind of a problem we're having with cedars across Vancouver Island and the Sunshine Coast, is just, you know, increase in drought each year, and these cedars love water and they just die. So it's kind of sad, but, you know, it enables me to mill them. So when this tree died, my buddies climbed up it, topped it, cut the top like 80 feet off or whatever, and then I milled a bunch of that wood into a ladder bridge off the corner of the roof onto the tree stem, which is the sketchiest thing I've ever built, like terrifying walking out there, and then dropped off that into this landing. I think that was probably about a 30-foot drop as well. Big downhill takeoff, so it wasn't as scary as the roof drop, but still cool one, pretty fun. Look at this fun guy. Whoa. Can't wait to hit that with the mower. Yeah. Flat drop here, landing kind of wide. It's offset a bit because we pop off and go a little bit rider's right into this corner, so you can ride it wide and not inside the berm and roost it. If you do that, you lose enough speed and you case going into the whale tail. So that actually happened in my event once this summer. Connor Gallart barred the drop, which was sick, but then he insided the berm and then like bottom bracket cased the whale tail. So pretty scary to watch, but he didn't fall backwards, so that's a win. This is the whale tail. It's the biggest feature in the yard. It's new to the yard this year. I used to have a boner log here, which I personally loved, but no one wanted to ride it except me. We had a couple bike separations of other riders riding it and casing it, so I wanted to put something in that was a little bit more friendly to ride. Even though it's really intimidating looking, it's easier to ride than the boner log was. It took me and 2 other guys 6 weeks to build this in March, so massive build. It was definitely the biggest wooden structure I've ever built. All of this wood is all fir that was laying on my property or from trees that we took down. That's the only way I was able to build the yard, and largely the house too, is by milling all the wood myself. Took the excavator over, carry wood over to the mill. The mill's got some hydraulic arms, lifts the logs up, you punch in the dimensions you want, and then push the bandsaw blade through it and it cuts it. So it's called a Wood-Mizer mill, and unbelievable, huge upgrade from the Alaskan mills I've used in the past. And it's really the only way to make this possible, because I probably have got, if I would have purchased it all, I probably would have spent $60,000 to $80,000 in wood just for bike stunts over the last few years. It's cool, you know, you can reuse a lot of that wood and repurpose it. So we'll head up the whale tail.
It's the giant whale tail.
Call it a whale tail because it looks like when a whale goes down underwater, its tail's up in the air, not when a girl's thong is sticking out of her back of her pants in high school. So this is the whale tail, proper nomenclature. So we've got a pretty big jump onto this. It's pretty intimidating. It's like a 9.5 foot lip, and then you're just looking at this step up that's massive. Like the top of this is, I think, 23 feet tall, so it's a really big step up onto it. Pretty scary to hit for the first time. Went good, landed pretty much right in the middle in the sweet spot. It took about 4 or 5 adjustments with the lip of moving it back, forwards, tilting it up, tilting it down to get it exactly trail speed where I wanted. The whale tail itself, we had to make a couple modifications for. So when you're building this type of thing, there's no plans, there's no blueprints. I literally drew it up on paper, and I'm not a structural engineer by any means. So I drew it up on paper, very rough sketch, and I was like, I think this is how tall I want it to be, because this is how big I want the step down to be, and this is how much dirt we have, and this is how high the ground level is. We put all the posts up at 20 feet, stood them up, and then started just trimming them, cutting them down to where I thought I wanted the whale tail to be. So after I did that, we had the original stringers along the top of the post where the base of the whale tail was gonna be 2 feet lower than what it is right now. So we had the whale tail fully roughed in, and I was looking at it from the side and I was like, I don't think it's big enough. Like, I love building stuff as big as I can build it, and it just didn't feel big enough. And so we actually had to unscrew everything and then lift the whole flat bottom of the whale tail, all the stringers before it was boarded, up 2 feet. And I'm really glad I did that, because the whale tail would have been too small. He wouldn't have had enough speed for the next jump. Anyways, long story short, it's just lots of trial and error when building this type of thing, you know? Like, I think if I did it again, I would have a better idea. It's just trial and error and figuring it out and eyeballing stuff. It's a hard thing to communicate when you have buddies helping you build it, when the idea is just in your head. It turned out really good. I'm stoked on it. It works really well for tricking in, tricking out. I had to build this entire benched cut, lifted platform out of the side of the hill to place the whale tail on. So that meant everything from elevating and building a platform that the lip sits on to this whole hillside we see here. I had to mine all of that from the side of the hill, from the bottoms, carry it all up here. The landing took a lot of trial and error, because, you know, I hit the whale tail the first time, I went to flat out of it. And I was like, damn, the landing needs to be a bigger gap. And moving a landing like this is a huge deal when there's 30 feet of dirt below the landing that you also need to move. I actually had to move the landing 3 times before I got it exactly where I wanted it. So it was weeks spent kind of just in this zone. And then every time I moved the landing, I also needed to redo all of the drainage. That meant putting in drainage pipes and digging them up and redoing them like 3 times. But I got to where I wanted it and really stuck with it now. Living on Vancouver Island, obviously a huge thing we deal with is rain, and as part of that, it's erosion and drainage. So that takes equally as much time to deal with as building the jumps. So this year I got lucky that I have a buddy who owns a erosion control company called Rain Coast Erosion. They basically shoot grass seed out of this massive gun hooked up to a semi truck, and we sprayed seed across everywhere in the yard that I was worried that things were gonna slump and slide. Grass, it's green. This is a new jump that I put in this year. There used to be a trick jump here after the boner log. The landing was originally right behind where you're being filmed, or I'm being filmed. So I moved the whole landing 20 feet further this way to give more flat bottom from the whale tail, and built a slight left-hand hip step up. This jump's sweet, but I'm probably gonna delete it next year. It's got like, you hit the whale tail and you kind of have to turn into it, so it's like sick for spinning left, but when I try and switch spin it, I just crash. Wanted something maybe a little bit bigger, so I think I might like turn this into a long and low or a big roller and then build a bigger jump a little bit further down the property. After you land the step up after the whale tail, it crosses over into a little skipper and then a long and low skipper that ends off the line. Pretty basic. It also intersects a new dirt line that I built from the very top of the property in the road because of the big trick jump at the bottom. So we'll go check that out next. So this is the line coming from the road. I wanted to build another line. It was a bit more chill. You know, it's great having the big ass jumps, but sometimes it's nice to ride something that's a bit more like trail-like and fun with skippers and hips and doubles. I usually hit this on my way home from trail rides, just drop it off the road, quickly rip a lap through the yard. Starts out, little step up, shark fin jump, pretty chill. And then from there I built a bench cut along the property. That's again kind of just like a trail. It's super fun. I usually like Manny land this or pop a Manny into the corner down here. So this is where it really feels like really mountain bikey, which is cool. So got a little like roller here off a root, and then I pop off that roller into this root, and then from here you pull again and kind of gap this bit more chunder. So it feels fun, a little bit more like mountain bike trail riding. So here I have a old stunt that used to be a road gap. This used to be the run-in for the big jump at the bottom, but I wanted something that had more hits and not just like pinning it down the property. Deleted the road gap. Structure's still here. I'll probably take this apart this winter. Now the line splits into two directions. So you can either peel right into the berm, which goes into the big jump at the bottom, or you can go straight, which is into skippers and the dirt line. We'll check out the dirt line first. Hardcore. Insurance company made me put those up. Second skipper of the line. This one's super fun too. Kind of just flowy trail bike lily pad style. So it's an on off and then into a dirt jump at the end. More of the grass holding the hillside together. Looks nice. Obviously you have to water jumps when you ride them, and in the summer here it barely rains. I'm on well water, which means I only have a limited amount of water I can use each day before I run the well dry. So this year I got a bunch of cisterns from the mill, so shout out Nick Court for hooking up the cisterns. So I filled them all, and then I try and use watering pails as much as I can to water the lines before I ride instead of relying on the house. Here we got the dirt line. This one's fun. It's the only dirt to dirt, like trick jump in the yard. 7-foot dirt lip, kind of step up vibe. So it's a fun one. Good warm up line. Get cruiser laps with the buddies. This is the berm that goes into the big line. So this splits off from the road. Chillin' berm. I usually sit down through this berm because you got to go nice and slow into this little lip step down. So this is actually my favorite jump in the whole yard. Small jump, but it's just jibby and like it's fun, you know, like you can do tricks on it and get techie with it, and it's just like bloop, bloop, little popper. So you hit this jump, bloop. It's like small. It's still kind of big, but it's small. And then it's right into another step down into like the big right hand motocross berm into the jump at the end. So yeah, I love this line. I'd like to build more of this style, like poppy, fun, jibby stuff throughout the property. Bloop. Do you respect wood?
Do you respect wood?
This is my log pile. This is wood that I have left over I haven't used yet. A bunch of it's from that tree at the top of my property by the house. Most of it's fir though that was lying around the property that I stack with the machine. We use the big logs. I bring the mill, set it up right here, mill it into boards. So this is kind of what I have left right now. It's just a bunch of semi-dimensional rough lumber. I use like 80% of it this year. But this is the way we do it. We run our own little mill operation down here. This is all sawdust on the ground. It's the flat bottom of the property. This used to just be a swamp. So I brought all the dirt down from the side of the hill and I raised this whole part of the property up by about 6 feet. Gave me a lot more usable land and turned just shitty swamp into an area that, you know, we can have spectators for the event. Just more usable land. Big berm into the last jump. This thing's super fun. You can either inside it, which I yell at people for doing because it wrecks it and causes more work for me. And then I just ride it casually, just cruise it. Gotta pull some of these rose bush runners off of it before I don't wanna get a flat tire. Anyways, this goes into the last jump. So 11-foot lip, 35-foot gap, big double. It's trickable, like obviously you can trick anything, but it's gnarly, it's fast. It's like tricking crab apple. So I built an elevated platform here to keep it above the ground level to help with drainage. So all the water comes down the hill here, gathers in this drainage ditch, and then I put drainage pipes in to the bottom of the swamp, which I'm still working on this fall. But yeah, big lip, super fun jump. Bunch of gnarly moves went down on this during the event. Mike Ross cash rolled it, which was insane. With the exception of, you know, one-off features that I've built for videos, like jumps off the deck and the shark fin line below that, or jumps off the house, this is kind of the last stable feature that remains. So this is the mulch drop. I don't ride it that often, but if there's something I want to try that's really gnarly, I'll probably give it a whirl on this before I send it on the dirt drop. It does suck slightly less to crash on this than dirt, although I've still concussed myself pretty badly on this. But mulch is a little deceiving on a drop because you're like, oh, it's gonna be chill, like if you fall, no big deal, but it's really slippery when it's on a steep landing. So I've found I've like stomped tricks and then washed out and still hit my head. But it is a good, probably a 14-foot drop. It's what, 20? Yeah, it's probably 14-foot drop, so good size drop. Still scary to trick. Like I foot plant 3 did a couple weeks ago and I hadn't done one of those in about a year, and still really scary. We rented a wood chipper and we just fell all these like alder trees, which are basically weeds around here, and threw them in the chipper and made a mulch drop. That was fun, eh? Will it chip? Throw a bunch of random crap in there. It was fun. Well, that's it, the yard tour. Thanks for watching. If there's anything you think I should build in the yard for the event next year or upcoming videos, let me know in the comments, and thanks for hanging out.